In today's video, I'll be going over the basics of what title insurance is. I'll also explain why title insurance is worth buying. What's up guys? If you're new to this channel, my name is Chris Chu and I'm a real estate lawyer here in Toronto. And on this channel, I give you some useful insights and information so that you can feel better prepared for your next real estate transaction. Even though title insurance has been around for a long time, most clients are still unsure of what it is and what it exactly covers. Most importantly, a lot of people ask if title insurance is even worth purchasing. Now, before we get into what title insurance is, let's start off with what the term title means in a real estate context. In real estate law, title means the status of legal ownership of a piece of property. When you are purchasing a property, part of a lawyer's job is to conduct searches in the government's property database to look up the property's history. This is called a title search. So here are some of the things a title search will bring up. Firstly, they'll bring up details of the current and previous owners, as well as details of the current and previous mortgages that are registered on the property. They'll also bring up details of any liens or third-party claims. And finally, they'll bring up details of rights of ways granted to third parties. These are called easements. For example, a telecoms company such as Rogers or Telus has the right to run cables for telephone and internet under your property, or if a local school has a walkway that might run through a portion of your yard. Now, generally speaking, a home buyer can expect their lawyer to ensure that the property has free and clear title, meaning that the home isn't burdened with issues or responsibilities from the previous owners. Practically, that means that mortgages, third-party claims, and debts should all be discharged before or shortly after closing. If a buyer bought a property with a previous owner's mortgage on it, that means that they would now be owning that home with a debt that needs to be paid off that's simply not even their responsibility. It's part of a lawyer's job to ensure that all previous debts are paid off. Now, with that in mind, there are some items that may not be discoverable on a standard title search with the main government registry that would require the lawyer to do additional searches from separate databases. Lawyers call these additional searches off-title searches. Now, for the most part, these searches are quite expensive and are not a unified set of items that can be easily checked off. Here are some examples of off-title searches. Firstly, a survey. A survey is a two-part report showing the features of the land, such as buildings, fences, improvements, and natural features, and a written report indicating any encroachments or other problems revealed by the surveying process. You can think of a survey like a photograph. It represents the property at a specific point in time, and surveys can take days or even weeks to complete and can cost thousands of dollars. Now, I'll be putting up a separate video discussing surveys in more detail, so make sure you check that out. Secondly, we have building or zoning searches to determine basically if the current zoning of a property is allowed and if there's an existence of any open permits, work orders, or deficiency notices. Thirdly, we have environmental searches. These are done to check for any records of non-compliance with environmental laws. Other types of off-title searches can also include development charges and occupancy permits for new construction or redevelopment properties, as well as work orders, open work permits, property tax searches, and any kind of unregistered liens. Now, traditionally, a purchaser's lawyer would ask a client a bunch of questions about their property and the plans that they had for it. Then they'd have a survey prepared and compare that against the seller's survey and then conduct off-title searches. From there, the buyer's lawyer would send the buyer a memo outlining whether they thought the property had free and clear title and make any recommendations to either fix any of these problems discovered or negotiate with the seller's side to have some of them remedied before closing. This document or memo was called a solicitor's opinion. Now, there were several drawbacks to this approach. Firstly, it was costly. Getting a survey done is already thousands of dollars. Apart from the survey, if you factor in additional off-title searches and their costs, the bill would likely run really high. Secondly, it was super time-consuming. Again, in the case of a survey can take days to weeks to schedule and complete. Other kinds of off-title searches, such as zoning or work orders, could take weeks or even months for the government department to simply respond, oftentimes because the government departments were backlogged or they would have their own internal timelines to meet. A third drawback was the lack of uniformity. Not every home has the same qualities and characteristics. Each survey would review varying degrees of risks, and each homebuyer had different plans for the property. It made the process of lawyers asking the right kind of questions a guessing game rather than an exercise of being extremely precise. Now, the biggest issue was recourse. The solicitor's opinion only covered what the lawyer could discover at closing. If a public record had some sort of clerical error that caused damage, the homeowner would only have to fix the problem on their own dime then potentially go after the government for any financial remedy. Additionally, if something wasn't discovered and a search wasn't ordered by the lawyer, the buyer didn't have easy recourse. In these instances, the buyer could only sue the lawyer in a limited set of cases, mainly for negligence. That really didn't help the problem since the buyer would still have to pay to fix the issue, then decide whether to sue the offending party and the lawyer. That was even more costly, time-consuming, and, well, as you guessed, overall inefficient. So, given that we've outlined some of the major drawbacks of the old school way using a solicitor's opinion for protecting title, this is where title insurance comes into the picture. So what is title insurance? Well, title insurance basically is an insurance policy that provides homeowners and mortgage lenders with a comprehensive and no-fault protection against title risks involved in a transaction. Insurers may also cover the costs associated with defending or pursuing a claim. For example, the legal fees and any kind of professional reporting. Title insurance allows buyers and mortgage lenders to essentially insure over selected problems rather than insisting on a repair of a potential problem. Title insurance may reduce the overall legal bill since certain off-title searches may be waived by the title insurance provider themselves. Now, you're probably wondering at this point then, what does title insurance cover? Well, a typical coverage in a title insurance policy may include 1. The absence of a survey or an up-to-date survey. 2. Errors in any search in public records. 3. Existing liens against the property. For example, if the previous owner had unpaid debts from utilities, loans, property taxes, or condo fees that were secured against the property. And finally, encroachments. These are structures that are built on your property that need to be removed since part of that structure is on the neighbor's property. The biggest difference between title insurance and a solicitor's opinion is that most title insurance policies cover what's called title fraud. This is a big ticket item since it is almost never covered in cases where a solicitor's opinion is in place. Simply put, title insurance covers title fraud and allows for the seller or the buyer to have some sort of recourse if their information or their property is being used in a fraudulent manner and funds are either taken out or the property is sold without their knowledge or consent. Now, title fraud is a very complex and important topic, but I want to cover that in a separate video. So make sure you keep your eyes open for another video coming up on the channel discussing title fraud and different ways that you can protect it, including using title insurance. Okay, so now that we've gone over what title insurance usually does cover, let's go over what title insurance usually does not cover. Firstly, title insurance doesn't usually cover home warranties. For example, whether the property is well built or the foundation is structurally sound. Secondly, title insurance usually doesn't cover coverage for appliances and fixtures, such as a stove or microwave that are not working, or if a chandelier isn't installed as agreed. Thirdly, title insurance typically does not cover any usage changes. That means changing a residential property into a mixed-use commercial space. So, let's talk about brass tacks. How much does title insurance cost? Unlike most other types of insurance policies, where you either have to pay a monthly or yearly amount, title insurance is a one-time fee. Generally speaking, the cost of a policy is about $100 per every $100,000 of a cost for a home and a mortgage. An example is if you are buying a home for around $800,000, the title insurance policy would be roughly in the ballpark about $800. What also differentiates title insurance from other types of insurance policy is that upon purchase, the protection from title insurance remains as long as your lifetime ownership of that home. Now, while I just gave you a rough estimate of how much title insurance would cost, the amount of any premium may vary depending on a number of factors, some of which may include the type of property, the purchase price, and the registered amount of a mortgage. Now, lawyers have a duty to explain that the option of a solicitor's opinion is still available to buyers instead of title insurance. Granted, it is more expensive and it covers a lot less. I don't really know why you'd want it, but that being said, we still have to do that. By law, lawyers can't receive any kind of commission for recommending a specific type of title insurance company. Okay, so to tie things up, title insurance serves as a lower cost alternative for protecting buyers during a real estate closing. It's often more cost effective to order a policy than to conduct off-title searches and obtain a new survey. As a no-fault compensation provider, it's no wonder the title insurance has, in a sense, taken over real estate conveyancing and is the go-to choice for both law firms, homeowners, and mortgage lenders. That's it for me, guys. I hope you found this video helpful and informative. If you did, make sure to click on the like button and subscribe and tune in for more content. Until next time, guys, I'll see you soon. Thanks.